Okay, so I wanted us to just have a short video on what we've done so far. That is what we did yesterday. So we are going to, I'm just doing a few recording on how to use the if, how to use the nested if, and then how to do the conditional formatting, right? Good. So what I'll do is I want to first of all check the battery life, right, of this data over here. Mind you, this is a, a remote patient monitoring data, right? So let's say a big hospital that has some systems that is able to get the vitals of patients, right? So as you can see, we have the reading from the heart monitor, the reading from the smartwatches, and all those things, right? So we want to know that the various devices that are being used, their battery life, right? We want to know whether it is okay or we have to charge them, right? And we will use the if function to determine that, right? So I need to insert a column next to this column over here, right? So I'll come to H, then right click, go to insert. Okay, then the new column will just be battery status, right? Good. So I want to check if my criteria or my condition is if the battery life is below, if the battery life is below, let me see, okay, if the battery life, oh goodness, is less than 12, right, then we need to charge it, right? So once it's less, we'll say we need to charge, right? But if it is above, then we just write it is okay, right? Good. So that's what you're going to do in column in cell H1, and then we or cell H2, and then we duplicate it across, right? So to do that, we start with our if, then I double click on the if, then it's asking for the logical test, right? Or the condition we are going to test, right? And it is going to test this column, right? The values in this column. So we use the first one, that is G1, G2. So we say if G2 is less than, sorry, if G2 is less than 12, right? That's a test or that's a condition. Then we bring our comma. The comma, what immediately follows the first comma is the true part of the logical test or the condition. If it is true, then Excel should indicate to us that we need to charge, right? Need to charge the battery, right? Right. What if it is false? If it's false, that means it is more than 12, uh, more than, no, let's rather use something like 16 because usually on our phones do 15%. Once your battery gets on 15%, it starts giving you a warning, right? So we say anything less than 16 should give us this alert, right? Good. And then the false part, which means if the battery is above 15%, right? Then it should just see the battery is okay, right? It's okay. Then we close this bracket. Then we just hit on our enter, right? So let's see. Why is this saying okay? This is uh, oh, okay. I think I'm using the wrong cell. I'm supposed to use G2, not F not F2, sorry. So let me make that change. This should be G, right? And I hit the enter. As you can see, it says need to charge, right? Once this is working, I just bring my cursor to the bottom right and the cursor changes to the plus. I double click, and then as you can see, it has taken care of all the battery lives, right? So if it's on 4%, it needs to charge. If it's on 94, that means it is okay, right? Okay, so this is how to use the if function. Then let's go on to how to use the nested if, right? The nested if. Let's look at how we do that. With the nested if, we go to, um, let's use, let's see. Let's use our age, right? Let's just use our age, and then we want to group the various age. We want to group them into pediatric. Pediatric means children, right? So pediatric. If the person is not a pediatric or a child, we are talking about an adult, right? And if the person is way above like 65, we say the person is a senior, right? Or a senior citizen. So we are going to use these three outcomes, right, in our condition. So what we do is we'll create another column beside the age column, right? So insert, we get a new column. We'll call it age group, right? So age group, right? Now, our condition will be that if the person is less than 18 years, he's a pediatric, right? But if the person is less than, should it be less than, if the person is below 65, right? It means the person is an adult, and then anything above that would be the senior, right? So anything above 65 is a senior, right? Okay, so let's look at this and then let's try to work with it. But let's check our logic. Let's check our logic, right? If the person is say 24, if the person is say 12 years, right, and we do our checking with our if function, truly we'll get that the person is a pediatric, right? But if the person is say 20 years, right, which means the person is supposed to be an adult, this condition will give a problem because 12 years is also less than 65, right? So we'll have to look at how to adjust our logic to make sure that it checks whether the person is above 18 but less than 65, right? Like we did yesterday. So what we'll do is we'll start writing out our if nested ifs here, and then we'll work our way till we get the right way to use the greater than and then the less than, right? So let's just work, and then as we are working, we'll see what to use. So we start with the if, right? The first logic is for us to test whether the person is less than 18, right? So we check whether the age, which is cell C2, right, is less than 18 years, right? If it is true, right, anything after the first comma is the truth part. If it is true, you just want Excel to print pediatric, right? If it is false, mind you, we have three options, so we cannot just go and write adult, you know. If it is false, that means we need to introduce another if, right? So that is what we call the nested if. We are putting one if in another if, right? So the false part, we'll put another if over here. Then the logic will be if the person is above, let's see. Yes, so if the person is above, say, 65, right? The person, so the age, still the age, C2 is above 65, right? That means the person is a senior, right? According to what we have over here. The person is above 65, we'll see the person is a senior, right? So right here, senior. Good. Then, if the person is not above 65, that means the person will be below 65, but above 18, right? We'll just say, then we should rather show adult, right? We just want to show adult. Now, what we have done is the first if has its own logic. The logic is the person less than 18 years? If it is true, then we are going to see the person is a pediatric, right? Then when we come to the false part of the first if, instead of just writing either adult or senior, we put another if, right, to check for these two scenarios, the adult and the senior. And what you are saying is that if the person is above 65, then we should print senior. Otherwise, we should just print adult, right? But at that time, before we even get here, it means we've already checked whether the person is 18. If that is false, right, then the pediatric part will be skipped. Then Excel will jump all the way to the next if, right? Then it will now check, is this person greater than 65 years? If it is so, then it will just say the person is senior. But if it is false, right, that means the person is less than 65, then it will go to the adult and print the adult. Why? Because it has already checked whether the person is less than 18 already, right? And it saw that no, the person was above 18. Once the person is above 18, it skips to the next if, right? Because the next if is what is in the false part of this first if. And it's a bit confusing, but the more we practice, the more we get used to it, right? Okay, so to close our brackets, you see that all the if brackets that we opened have different colors, right? We have a black one and then we have a red one. That means we are supposed to provide two closing brackets, right? And to know how many brackets you are supposed to provide, you just use the color. So if I press the first closing bracket, realize that this red goes with this red. If I press again, notice that this black goes with this black, right? And then that means you are done. But if you have many ifs, right, you can have as many ifs under the nested if, right? You can have many ifs. All you do is that you use the color of the opening brackets to match exactly the closing brackets, right? And then once you are done, you hit on your enter key. As we can see, this person is above 72, is above 65, so he's a senior, right? Then I'll just duplicate this function downwards. So bring my cursor to the bottom right. Once it changes to the plus, I double click. And then as you can see, it has indicated whether the person is an adult, a senior, or let's say if you have a pediatric person. Oh, seems everybody is old. Yeah, since everybody is old, there's no pediatric, but no problem. Would have been nice to have someone who has a less age, but no worries. Let's just work with this. Let me change this to say 12. Yes, and then as you can see, this has changed to pediatric, right? Okay, so this is how to use the if, right? And then the nested if. So let's look at the conditional formatting. And to do the conditional formatting, we will use the, say, let's use this one, the average heart rate, right? Let's use the average heart rate. So we are going to, what you are going to do is you want to see if the person has, um, I don't know, if the person, I don't know whether if it is high, it is good, or if it's low. I'm sure if it is too extreme, it's also bad. So, but just anyways, what you are going to do is if the person heart rate is greater or from somewhere from 80 upwards, right? We want these cells, the cells that contains those values to be in green. And if the person has a heart rate of say something around 60, 50, their column or background of their cell should be yellow. And then anything less than the 50, like towards 40 downward, should be red, right? So to do that, this is what we call conditional formatting. It's going to format how your your cells appear based on some condition, right? So we'll look at that. To do that, we have to copy or highlight, sorry, we have to highlight or select the column we are going to do the conditional formatting on, right? And in this case, we are working with column F, right? We are working with column F. Okay, so when I highlight column F, I think I'll be in for a trouble because of this one. So I have to come to where the figures are, and then I'll highlight the whole figures, right, in the column F, right, leaving the header out. Then I'll go to make sure I'm in my home menu. Then I'll go to conditional formatting, click on my drop down, and then I'll go to color skills, right? I'll just go to color skills. Then I can choose the colors. As you can see, the first one has the three colors. So whatever is towards 100 is green. Anything towards 50 or above 50 is yellow, right? And then anything downwards going is going to be a red, right? So we can choose that. We can also choose this one different colors, so different options. You also have two color scales over here where it just shows two colors, right? But if for some reason you are not comfortable with these options, you can click on the more rules, right? And when you come here, we are formatting the cells based on the values, right? Based on the values in the cell. That's what we're using to format the cell. We can format the cell based on what they contain. We can do that. If it contains text, I want to use the text to format, we can do that. But right now we are using just the numbers, right? Okay, so there are different scenarios that you can do formatting for. You can even format only unique or duplicate values. You can do that. So these ones you can play with them. But we are interested in the three colors, right? So if you look down here, right now it says two color codes or two color scale. It's moving from orange to towards yellow, right? So just two colors, but let's use three colors, okay? Now at the middle, so anything around 50 is going to show in yellow. Anything less than 50 is going to show red, and then anything above 50 is going to be in green, right? You can equally work and change this, right? You can change this if you write here 60, that means anything that is around 60 is going to be yellow, right? And then anything less than 60 will be red, and then anything above will be green. But let's maintain the 50, right? So depending on whatever you are doing, you can do your formatting. Once we click on the OK, you realize that it has formatted it accordingly. So 105 is green, 72 is yellow because it's above average, right? Okay. Then our reds are 50s and 48 is typical deep red, right? Typical deep red. Then 56 is lighter red because it is above average, right? So those kind of things. That is how it is working. All right. So this is how to do if, use the if function, use the nested if, and then your conditional formatting. So this is what we are doing for today. All right, thank you.